Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to the Reptile Barn. I wanted to go over a couple of things while showing you the newest batch of hatchling sailfin dragons. So these are, as most of you know, Philippine sailfin dragons, so Hydrosaurus pustulatus. We had an interesting discussion with Alex's Agamids. He specializes in animals in this family, so he has had a lot of awesome insights for us since we've started communicating with him. And one of the things he said was, in talking with other breeders and from just kind of his own experience, it seems to him that socializing your sailfin dragon or your other agamids like this sometimes can result in lower growth rates. And the thinking is it makes them so nervous to be chased around their cage and grabbed in order to be socialized that they spend more of their time hiding and not as much eating, and their stress levels are higher, and so on and so forth. And he wasn't accusing us of anything. He was just asking if we had seen anything like that with our animals. And interestingly, we have not. We have actually seen the opposite. And so we chatted for a little bit of why that might be. And I want to talk about a few ideas and discuss a few other issues that can come up with these guys and things to consider with more advanced husbandry. Anyway, so as you can see, there are 6 little siblings in here. The entire clutch hatched, and I do want to talk about that. We have had some clutches where the first couple babies hatch, and they are running around rampaging through the egg box, so much so that they can turn or flip over other eggs that haven't pipped yet, and those babies end up drowning, and it's terrible. And because sometimes they hatch and it only takes 10 minutes for them to flip them. So if we didn't happen to check in that time and remove the baby that just hatched, we can lose eggs that way. So we're very happy to show you that we had a perfect hatch this time around, 6 for 6. And the reason being that Caleb just kind of built a fortress of just the little plastic straws around every single egg in the clutch so that they could not be flipped if one baby hatched earlier than the rest. And it worked. All of them stayed upright through the hatching process and are now fully emerged, absorbed their yolks and everything, and it's time to begin socializing. You will notice, or maybe some of you will notice, I don't know, that baby right there, his tail is shorter than the rest. Every once in a while this happens to us, well, to one of them, right? Where I think what is happening is either it gets, the tip of the tail is like kind of wound through some sticks or anything else inside their cage, and they try and jump and it breaks the tip off. Can you see how this one's just slightly shorter and nubbier than the other ones? It's not a ton shorter, but a little bit. Anyway, the other thing that happens is they will take a flying leap, right, and crash into the wall with their tail at a straight out behind them kind of angle, and it ends up breaking the tip of the tail. So these guys are not like our tree monitors. The tree monitors' tails are supple, very, very curvy. They do that totally perfect spiral thing that everybody loves. They have perfect control over where their tails go. They function almost as a limb. These guys' tail are these long, very, very rigid tails. They aid them in balance when they're running. They aid them in swimming with propulsion. They're very muscular tails. And but the tips get very, very thin and tapered, but they're still pretty rigid. So especially at this size when they're just tiny, those little tips, it takes almost no pressure to break those tips, and it's unfortunate. Now, this has happened to us, I would say, at least 3 times, maybe 4 or 5 times now. And when it's this young, these are just, a couple days old. When it's this young, the tip often grows all the way back. And actually, I'm already seeing a little nub on the end of the broken tip here. So I'm hopeful that it will grow entirely back. We keep a very close eye on it. If it looks like it's like an open wound, we obviously are going to give him medical care and, Neosporin if we need to or whatever. My point is just be super, super aware inside their enclosures. Anyone who ever gets any of these from us. Narrow turns where they might be trying to whip through a turn and their tail could get caught on something. Might not be the way to go. And it's unavoidable. They're very highly active. They're flinging themselves around in there. They love to run and jump. They love to swim. They love to leap from a branch into the water or from the water into a branch. That's just how it is with highly active animals. And I do not believe it causes them lasting damage as long as it's just the tip. If too much of the tail got lost, of course, it could impede their balance and things. You don't want bacteria to get introduced and get an infection, but that's the way it goes. We've never had any hurt their toes, which is something else I've heard can happen with these guys because of those just crazy long frog toes. But supposedly that can happen too, so that's something else to be aware of. Now, on to the socializing. You will notice we have water in here. For sailfins and other species of lizards that are very, very comfortable in the water, this is an excellent way to go because to species like this, water means safety. All right? They in the wild, they will flee to water when they feel in danger. So water means safety to them. They are evolved to feel safe in the water. There's not that many things that are chasing them through the trees, whether it's a bird or a mammal, a reptile or something that's going to follow them into the water. Of course, there's also predators in the water. Something this small in nature is never safe, but they like to flee to water. So one of the things we've always done in these handling sessions where we're socializing them is put them in a little bit of water. They are superb swimmers. We use about 84 to 85 degree water, so it's nice and warm but not too hot. We obviously don't want to hurt them. And we put them in all together because that's how they're in their enclosure for the first couple weeks. If we go more than a month or two and these haven't all shipped yet, we do separate them out. We don't want them to get larger and start to get territorial or anything like that. But in general, they do very, very well together for the first little while. And the next thing I wanted to bring up, I wish I could have got this on film, but I'm here alone, and I could not get it on film since I would have had one hand going and one hand trying to work with these guys. The number one thing that we came up with in talking with Alex's Agamids, let me get this little hair out of here. When we do this, we do not grab them. Not even when they're in their cage and we're trying to get them into the water. We do not grab them. So what ends up happening is, for 6 of them like this, I just spent, before I started this video, about 45 minutes, almost an hour, to make this transfer. Because grabbing them and restricting their limbs like that to move them erases all of the progress that I'm making, right? So what I did instead is I just stick my hand in their enclosure, I come close to them, they eyeball my hand like it's a terrifying monster, some of them run away, and I just keep going and going and going and going forever until they're curious enough to hop on. And then I just slowly withdraw my hand from the cage and I plunk them down in the water. So they, at 0 point in this process, are they ever grabbed, right? Now, in the water, same thing. You can see that because these ones are literally only a couple days old, they are still nervous of me. They're not running and scampering and thrashing, which is good. I don't want them, in a terror. But they're all avoiding me. They're staying to the far side of this tub. I need them to learn that my hand is safe. Now, if they take a little nibble at my finger, I just let them. It doesn't hurt. and I don't want to jerk away and scare them even worse. So you see how he's not running away. He's looking at me, he's staring at my face, but he's not running away. He might when I touch his chin. Let's see. No, he's letting me pet him. So that's a good interaction right there. You might not think that 2 seconds is going to do anything for you, but it absolutely does. That was a good little interaction where he watched me like a hawk. I touched his chin and he didn't run away and nothing bad happened to him. So let's see if he'll let me do it again or if he's going to run away this time. So I slowly approach with my hand. Again, if he bites me, I just let him. It's okay. And then I pet him. And if he runs up my arm, I just gently turn my hand so that he goes back into the water. I don't want them coming out. But you see how he's getting less and less fearful of my hand. This is excellent. In fact, he's just kind of pushing right past it as if it's not even there. That's good. He's letting me touch his tail. I'm not moving fast. He's just swimming around. He feels okay. Let's try another guy. Let's try this guy, see if he'll accept some actual physical touch. And see, he's swimming away, and I'm not going to chase him. I don't want him to feel like he has to swim even faster. All right, little broken tip guy. How about you? I'm going to just gently touch his chin. Oh, see, he didn't like that, so he backed away. I let him back away, but he didn't run, so I'm going to try one more time. Yeah. That's it. A couple of seconds. A little bit of contact. My big, giant, scary hand approached him, but didn't do anything bad to him. And he feels like he's still in his safe space in the water, and nothing terrible happened. I'm going to approach again. Try and touch his body. There he goes. And that's just fine. And I'm going to make sure over the next 20 minutes or so that each one of them gets 4 or 5 of those little experiences, I guess I could call it, right? Where my hand, which is this big, giant, hot thing that feels like a predator, comes to them. They watch it. They're scared of it, but then it touches them and nothing bad happens. And I'm going to do this for a little while. I don't want the water to get too cold. You know, there's no heat source in this water, so I don't want it to get really cold and you know, cause any damage. But yeah, so another 20 minutes or so. Obviously, I'm not going to film the whole thing. I don't want you guys to have to stare at me poking the sailfins for the next 20 minutes. But I wanted to address this process, and I would invite Alex's Agamids or anyone else who has a lot of experience with young lizards. Let me know what you think. Is there something I am missing that might keep them more comfortable or safe feeling? Other techniques? You know, I've heard of some really invasive techniques. You know, things that people take from like the world of falconry, for example, where you put a rope around them and you just they can't avoid you. You know, you've got them on a leash basically, and you sit there for 6 hours, and they have no choice but to be next to you, and you touch them over and over and over again. I am uncomfortable with that. One, I don't want to sit there for 6 hours. I'm going to be honest. Even if it were the best technique in the world, I rarely have 6 straight hours to just sit and hold a lizard on a string. But 2, I'm just not certain that long term that's going to actually result in the highest amount of trust. I think that these low stress, low duration experiences over the course of time build up to a much more trusting experience and relationship. So anyway, I'm gonna put the camera away so I can focus on what I'm doing. I don't, you know, since I'm alone, I don't want them running up my arm and jumping out into this room I'm in. It's a secure room, so it would be okay. I'd catch them, but then that's a chasing experience. It's bad for me because I have to catch them and they're hard to catch, and it's bad for them because then they're being chased, and that you know, that's a step backwards where I'm trying to, the whole point of having them out like this is to take a step forward in their socialization, and that would definitely be a step backwards. The only other thing I wanted to show you guys real quick is that even though these are extremely young and they're full siblings from the same clutch, look at the variation in their color. Look at how bright and banded the pattern is on this guy, if it'll focus. And there's glare from a light bulb, I apologize. This one over here is the same way. And I also have 2 dark guys. There's this guy, much darker and less banding. And then this is the darkest one of all, who's been swimming away from me the whole time. I'm gonna have to work extra with him. little frog swim there. And then the other two are kind of in between. But I don't know. I don't know if that stays into adulthood, those differences, but it's kind of interesting that even full siblings, there's quite a lot of variation in the same clutch. Anyway, thank you guys for sticking around for this longer video. I hope it was informational. The point for me, the biggest joy in reptile keeping is actually having experiences with my animals. You know, I love to see them, I love to watch them, I love to feed them. There's a lot of things I enjoy with my reptiles, but actually handling them and feeling like they trust me and they're comfortable with me, that to me is the pinnacle. I know it's not for everybody, but for me it is. So I work really hard to try and get these animals to tolerate and then enjoy human interaction. And I feel like for me, with this particular species, this is a good kind of first step. Anyway, that is all. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, we're the Reptile Barn.